Shalom Aleichem, and welcome back, everyone, as we are preparing for Shabbat, Parshat Noach. I want to say a big thank you to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. This week, my wife and I welcome another holy neshama, our fifth daughter, to this world. And Baruch Hashem, we came home today. Mother and daughter is doing good. So I want to say a big thank you to everyone who reached out. Everyone who said thank you, everyone said mazel tov, and everyone who offered help and everything. We really, really appreciate all of it. And like everyone says, Rak Simachot, we should only see happiness, 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 and happiness. Rabotai, let's start off Parashat Noach. There's a famous story that's told that there was a hospital. There was a hospital that was around for hundreds of years. And of late, every time someone came into the hospital, no matter, let's say he came in for a broken bone, and they put it in a cast, and they were fixing him up. A few days later, he ended up with a terrible, terrible cold. And he was coughing and everything. No matter what you came into this hospital for, you came out sick with something else. And they couldn't understand. They called all the professors, all the doctors, everybody came to look, infectious disease, and they couldn't figure it out. They heard that there's one professor, head of all these diseases, infectious diseases. So they called him to come take a look. He comes to take a look, and he's examining the hospital, and he's there for months on end. And finally he says, I figured it out. He says the hospital has been standing in this present location for several generations. And during this time, so many people came in with so many different sicknesses that the machala, the sickness itself, went into the walls of the hospital. And now, when a patient comes, no matter what he comes for, he ends up getting the sickness that's in the walls of the hospital. And if you think this is a weird thing, today in hospitals, you'll hear doctors tell their patients, it's safer for you to go home now than to wait a few more days. Why? Because you might acquire a hospital-acquired infection. The truth is the walls, the whole place is full with diseases. Where else do you have old diseases more than the hospital? And the professor gave a recommendation. The professor said, you have to burn this whole hospital down to the ground. There's no way to fix it. In this week's parasha, it says, Vayar Elohim et haaretz v'hineh nish'ata. And Hashem looked at the earth, and behold, it was corrupted. Everything was ruined. Because all of flesh, and it doesn't say all men, it doesn't say mankind. It says, all flesh corrupted its way. What does it mean, the Midrash Rabbah that Rashi quotes says as follows: Afilu behema haya va'of niskakin l'she'enan minan. That even the domesticated animal, the beast and the bird, started having relationships with other animals, not of their species. Ki hishchit kol basar. The whole world became corrupted. The Bet HaLevi asks on this midrash, how can it be? Animal doesn't have bechira. Animal doesn't have the option to choose. There's no free will by animals. They have a natural instinct to do what their nature tells them to do. So how do they go against their nature to go and do something unnatural? To go and be with a different species? And the Bet HaLevi explains, the Midrash is telling us that when the humans made sin, it's not that the animals saw and learned from us. when we made the sin, when the people made the sin, the mid avera, the world got corrupted. We ruined the atmosphere. Just like in this hospital, in this story, got filled with disease. That's what happened in the world. That even if you had nothing to do, you just sat there, you got corrupted. The Gemara Hagigah tells us, a tzaddik, not only does he get Gan Eden and Olam Haba for his good deeds, but rather he gets reward for the people around him's good deeds. And the Gemara says also, Hagigah, that a Rasha, he gets punishment for himself and for his neighbors and for those around him. What type of dina mishpat is this? Type of punish me or give me reward for me? Why am I getting other people's reward? Why am I getting punished for other people? The Bet HaLevi answers same thing. Because when a Rasha does something bad, he causes the atmosphere to go bad. And now, even animals can start to sin. They were once transporting Rabbi Yochanan Wasserman. He was in New York. And he went back during the war. He went back to Europe during World War II. He said, I had to be with my students. But he was here when it came out. And he was fundraising for his yeshiva in Barnovich. And they were driving him throughout Manhattan. And the story goes that he was coming to Times Square area. All of a sudden, he's in the car. All of a sudden, he starts to shake. He said, what's the problem, Rebbe? Rebbe Chanan, what's wrong? He says, there's so much tumah here. Take me out of here. They once came to one of the Rebbes in Europe, and they told him Mashiach was here. So what did he do? He went to the window, opened it, took a sniff outside, and said, Mashiach's not here. How do you know? He said, Mashiach would be here, I would smell it. But you know what's the most amazing part of that story? Is that he had to open the window to smell it. Because inside his house it already smelled like Mashiach. Because when you have tzaddikim, they're able to send out the influences around them. This is what happened during the Mabul. The people were so bad that they changed the atmosphere. The Zohar HaKadosh. The Zohar HaKadosh says, we all know that when we got the Torah, right? I said the Beraot, we said Na'aseh V'Nishma, we got 2 crowns, and we went and we became like Adam HaRishon before the Het, which meant we weren't going to die. Now, Moshe Rabbeinu was upstairs, Yehoshua was on the mountain. Yehoshua was not with the people, right? He's not with them. Moshe Rabbeinu comes down, and he says, what's that noise? And Yehoshua says, I don't know, it could be war, it could be this, it could be that. He's not sure. Moshe Rabbeinu tells him, Moshe Rabbeinu tell him, no. This is people sinning, people making Avirah. Question is, how come Yehoshua didn't know? Moshe Rabbeinu knows, Yehoshua doesn't know. More than that, Zohar HaKadosh says, Hashem did tell him, but you see, Moshe didn't say what Hashem told me. He said, what do you hear? Why is he asking, what do you hear? Why did he say, Hashem told me? No, he says, what did you hear? What's this noise? Then, more than that, the Zohar HaKadosh says, how come Yehoshua, who didn't do the sin, how come he lost his ability to live forever? Anyone who was in the Cheta Ego, who was there, lost it. But Yeshua wasn't there. So Zohar HaKadosh says, and to answer all our questions, Zohar HaKadosh says, the fact that Yehoshua was on earth when the sin happened, he himself already got this, the atmosphere changed him. Even nothing to do with the Chet, but he was in the area, he was on earth when it happened. He lost his ability to live forever, and that's why we can say he didn't understand what he was hearing, because the atmosphere of sin already changed, even nothing to do with it. This is how far one person's mitzvah, or one person's sin, can go. It can change everything around him. They say it once happened. Rav Aaron Kotler, Zecha Tzedik Lebracha, who was the Rosh Yeshiva of the Medrash Gavoa of Lakewood, was invited to a parlor meeting. They were collecting money for BMG. And it was in the house of Mr. Steinberg. And a lot of rich people came. They were going to, eat a little bit, listen to a shir from the Rosh Hashiva, and then everyone would pledge some money. One of the people who came was a neighbor of Mr. Steinberg, and he was a non-religious neighbor. He was Jewish, but not religious. He came because he heard there was going to be good food, the rabbi is going to speak. So he came. When they came to the speech, instead of giving a nice speech with stories, Aaron Kotler went involved in a Talmudic sugya about transferring money from one tzedakah to another tzedakah. And he was going in and speaking rapid Yiddish, and he was going and explaining the Talmudic sugya, Talmudic topic back and forth. And after the shir was over, this non-religious man walks over to Mr. Steinberg. He says, the food was great. But I'll tell you one thing, I didn't understand one thing the rabbi was talking about, but I'm going to change my life from now on. I'm going to start to keep Shabbat. So Mr. Steinberg says, why? What happened? He says, the rabbi was speaking, I didn't understand what he was saying, but he spoke to me with his eyes, and he was asking me why I don't keep Shabbat. That's what I heard, that's what I saw, that's what I felt. The next morning, he informed his brother, who was his partner in the large, successful business, he's not going to come in for Shabbat. His brother thought he was joking, or maybe thought it was a mishigas, a craziness that'll go away after a few weeks. But it never went over. And he kept it, and he kept it, and he kept it until eventually his brother also kept Shabbat. They closed the store. Rabbi Steinberg says, even seasoned Talmidei Chacham couldn't understand what Aaron Kotler was talking about. He was talking so fast, so deep. But one tzaddik just speaks from his heart, just speaks a little bit. He's there himself. What happens? What happens? Changes the whole atmosphere. People always say, I want to do kiruv. I want to start bringing people back to Torah. How are you bringing a person back to Torah? You be the best you can be. That already influences everybody around you. Remember we said on Sukkot, the second and right before the first days of Sukkot, before the Chai came out, we said the story of Rav Shishkal, right? The son-in-law of Moshe Feinstein. He once walked into a store, and the owners were non-religious Jews. They said, we have our son. Rabbi, maybe you can help us. Our son is going to marry a Goyah. She wants to marry a Gentile. We're not religious, but we never thought he would go that far. And Rav Shishkal said, okay, where is he? I'll speak to him. Came and made an appointment. He walked with him for 15 minutes. This guy already had the wedding hall, the pictures, the flowers, everything set. The invitations were out already. And Rav Shishkal spent 15 minutes with him. And the boy came back and told his mother and father after the walk, if we have such great people in our nation, then I won't marry outside. But you think about it. 15 minutes he spent with the tzaddik. I don't know what Rav Shishkal told him. I can't imagine what you can tell someone in 15 minutes that would change their whole life. But he did. Why? Because the tzaddik himself, the influences that go out from him is already enough to change people. The Gemara tells us it's forbidden to look at a Rasha's face. Now I look at a Rasha. That's what it says. You now look at an evil person. Why? What's wrong? I'm just looking. You're going to be influenced by the Rishoda, by the disgustingness and evilness of that person. It rubs off. If it can rub off for evil like we see in the Mabul, how much more so it'll be for good, like Rabbi Steinberg, Rav Shishkal that we talked about. And everybody who does one mitzvah already changing the world in the good direction. I want to take it one step further. Now you're going to understand the gadlut, the greatness of Noach. When was Noach living? Every single person was a Rasha. Ki shchit kol basar. The whole world was corrupted. And yet Noach what? Ish tzaddik tamima. Do you understand what he was up against? Even the animals couldn't fight the influence. And yet Noah was able to fight it off. Noah, ish tzaddik tamim. Hayam edorotav. Chaim Vital, the Tzaddik L'Bracha, was once told by the Arizal that he has a very special neshama. He was told the Arizal once revealed to his prime disciple Chaim Vital that he had been endowed with a special neshama. So Chaim Vital tells the Arizal, what's the point of me having a special neshama? What's the point of any of us doing mitzvot? We're living in such a corrupt society. What the tzaddikim were able to do many, many years ago, in their great generations, what can we be compared about? Why does it make a difference that I have a special neshama or not? So the Arizal answered him. Listen to the Arizal's answer. He answered him with a story. Story goes, the king of Egypt was visited by an admirer from a foreign country. And this admirer, this person from another country, rich man, said to the king of Egypt, I want to give you a present. And at that time in Egypt, they didn't have any parrots. They didn't have any birds that talk, any parrots. So he came and he gave the king a parrot. And everybody was, ooh, ah, wow. And it's a big thing. So the Arizal said, what was so special about this parrot? Parrot's a bird that mimics words, that's it. There's nothing else to it. We all know about a parrot. The Arizal said the answer is simple. All humans speak. So no one makes a big deal about humans speaking. Because everyone speaks. But parrots? Birds? Which bird speaks? Just a parrot. Everyone makes a big deal about it. The Arizal continues. It's certainly true that in our generation, it's not compared to previous generations. It can't be compared. True, our service and that of Noach's cannot be compared to the time of Abraham Avinu. But yet, we are like that parrot. Where no one else is doing mitzvot. Where the whole world is going downhill. You can just look around outside in the news and see what's happening in the United States. Yet, we who keep the Torah and mitzvot, we are considered special. Even though what we're doing cannot be compared to our avot, cannot be compared to Moshe Rabbeinu, but we're like this parrot. Humans speak, humans this. Birds speak. That's an amazing phenomenon. That's the way the Arizal explained it to Chaim Vital. We live in very challenging times. Yet, each one of us can do our part to disinfect the polluted atmosphere that surrounds us. How? By doing mitzvot. By keeping the Torah, halacha, doing everything the Torah says, doing exactly how you're supposed to live a life like a Jew. We're going to disinfect. You know how much we're going to disinfect it? Let's take a look. At the end of almost towards the end, chapter 8, verse 17 in this week's Parshat. Listen what it says over here. The Pasuk says, it's written, Hotzeh, but it's read, Haitzeh. What's this talking about? Hashem says, every living being that is with you, all the flesh of birds, of animals, and moving things, have them go out with you. Now Rashi says, why does it say Hotzeh? Why does it say Haitzeh? Hotzeh Ketiv. It's written Hotzeh. Haitzeh Keri, but you read it Haitzeh. Why? Haitzeh Omer Lahem Sheyitz'u. Haitzeh means tell them they need to go out. Hotzeh, when it's written Hotzeh, what does it mean? Im enam rotzim latzet, hotziim ata. If the animals say they don't want to go out of the teva, Noach, you have to kick them out. Which animal likes to stay in a cage? Never heard of an animal likes to stay in a cage. Even if you give its meal 3 times a day, the natural of any animal is to be free.
But they feel the death. That's what they had no choice.
Okay, it's a good shot. They didn't want to go out to a world that was not populated. But I want to read to you from the Meshech Chochmah. The Meshech Chochmah says, you know why they didn't want to come out? What was going on inside the Teva? All the Hesed, right? What did that do? That disinfected all the pollution. The Teva became Kadosh. Became so Kadosh, Meshech Chochmah says, it became so Kadosh that maybe the animals did not want to leave this Makom Kadosh. They wanted to stay in the clean air. They wanted to stay in the place of Hesed. Therefore, Hashem tells Noah, I understand that, but they need to go out and repopulate the world. You got to kick them out. But you understand how far this goes? This is our job. Our job in this world is to disinfect the pollution by keeping the Torah, keeping the mitzvot, doing Hesed. Most important, doing Hesed. Because what was Noach doing all those years? And that's going to lead us in to our next lesson on this week's Parshat. It says, how was the Teva built? It says as follows: Aselecha tevat atzei gofer kinim ta'aseh teva. You should make it kinim. What does kinim mean? The Rashi explains kinim medorim, living areas. You should make different compartments. This animal here, that animal there, different compartments. But the Midrash Rabbah says a different understanding. He says, you know what it means kinim? It compares it to the kinim is derived from the word ken, a nest. Just like you have a mitzorah, you have the ken mitzorah, the birds that you use for the mitzorah, to purify the mitzorah. You use the bird. The Midrash Rabbah says the teva was kapara. The teva was atonement, was purification. How? So Karlstein, the Chassidike Bracha, explains, how was this? When Noah was doing the Hesed 24/7, that made the atonement. Hesed made the kapara. The Midrash says, Abraham Avinu meets Malki Tzedek, who's Shem, right? Noach's son. And he says to Malki Tzedek, he said, in what zechut were you and your father and your family saved? And what does Malki Tzedek say? Malki Tzedek says, the Midrash says, that we did 24/7 Hesed. The whole time we were doing Hesed, we couldn't even sleep. The Midrash says, Abraham Avinu heard this, and what did he do? He said, if Noah and his children made Hesed for animals, how much more so if I can make Chesed for people? And he went and he made his eshel, right? Achila, shtia, right? Lina, eating, drinking, sleeping for humans. He made a tent with 4 sides. What was Abraham doing? He said, if that's what the whole world survived on Hesed, that's what I have to do. Abraham Avinu, as we know, Maaseh Avot Siman Banim, he gave us the genetic DNA to be able to do Hesed. You should know that the Goyim who find out about the Hesed that we do, about all the gemachs that we have, and the Chaverim, and the Atzolo, and the Shemim, and this and that, they're amazed. They can't believe it's being done. Like, how? Baruch Hashem, my wife just gave birth, like we mentioned, and everyone's doing meal trains and bringing food and stuff like that. Who would think about it? There's so much chesed in the Jewish world. Because Noach did it. Avraham Avinu realized how great it was, and he put it in the DNAs of the Jewish people to always do it. Rav Simcha Cohen Shlita, he was talking to a secular kibbutz, and he was telling the kibbutzim there, those people, he was telling them how the Charedim B'nai Brak could do so much chesed. He said, you should know that there's a young couple, and the husband, he comes home every week with the paycheck, and instead of using the paycheck for himself, there's a family with a bunch of children, and he gives the money to those children so they can have what to eat and drink, and they can have what to wear, and they can have a house. And he said it's not enough that just the husband gives, that the husband gives his paycheck. He can live for himself, and the rest he gives. Almost 90% he gives away. His wife every morning goes to that family to help all the children wake up in the morning, prepare breakfast, lunch, dinner, everything she does for that family's children. And he speaks a little more, and he ends the speech. As he ends the speech, one of those secular Jews gets up, get up, and say, Rabbi, I don't believe you. Who's going to give away 90% of their paycheck? Which mother is going to go up and take care of someone else's kids? Who's going to do this? People have to live their own life. Right? You have to have fun. You need recreational time. You need stuff to do for yourself. And Rav Cohen said to him, if I give you their names, and I give their home address, will you believe me? And the man said, yes, show me, tell me. Now Simcha Cohen tells him, you know who this is? It's you and your wife. He says, what? He says, where do you think chesed starts? You think chesed starts with taking care of someone else? You! Look at every single one of you. You have family. You get money. How much you spend on yourself? We're probably wearing the same old suit, same old jacket. Maybe we'll buy something new. And yet we're spending all that money, 90% if not more, on the kids' tuition, on their food, on their clothing, on this, on that, on that. Which woman would not rather sleep late or not have to take care of all that children, and yet she wakes up and takes care of other people? All day, every day. This is what Abraham Avinu gave us the ability to do. People look and say, how the Jews can have so many children? I mean, it's easy for us to have so many children. Why? Chesed is ingrained in us. Chesed is from Abraham Avinu. Abraham Avinu gave us the ability to do chesed. Abraham Avinu, it says he made people. He made them by teaching them Torah, by feeding them, giving them to drink, giving them a place to sleep. This is ingrained in us. Unfortunately, some people think the chesed is only done when it's done outside with other people. Then it's considered chesed. At home, they don't help, they don't do. There's different reasons for this. One big reason we do it for outside people, we talk about many times, we do it for outside people. They tell you thank you more, it feels better. You do it at home, it's taken for granted maybe, or people expect it. The truth is the chesed's at home. We've said this story over in the past, but just to say it again so people can pay attention and understand sometimes the double standard that we have when we do chesed. There was a young, one of the young kollel guys. He was learning in Yerushalayim, and one day he was rushing early morning to get to kollel. His chavruta was waiting for him. He was running late, but as he's running to kollel, he sees a woman walking with tons of bags in her hands. And you can see she's like, she's having a difficult time. So he's thinking in his head, he's making a cheshbon. Should I help her? Should I not help her? I have to go to kollel, I have to learn on time. Chavruta is waiting. But how can I be so cruel and so evil and not help someone who's drowning in bags? In the end, he said, you know what? Chesed is chesed. I'm going to go help her. Now, you can't look at the woman. You have to be tzniut. You can't look. He has to watch his eyes. So with his head down, he comes over. He says, oh, Geveret, let me help you with the bags. Tell me, where am I taking these bags? Where can I drop them off? And the woman says to him, Moshe, what's wrong with you? You don't recognize your own wife? And he looks up. He says, Malka? Oh! I didn't know it was you. Listen, I'm late for kollel. Here's the bags. I gotta go. And he leaves her there with all the bags. Now, it's funny when you think about it. Sometimes we're guilty of this, you know. She'll figure it out. And you see someone else, I gotta help them. Noah and his family, 24/7 for a whole year, had to do chesed to make kapara for the world in order for the world to survive. So much so kadosh they made the teva that the animals didn't want to come out. I think we can take this one step further. Sometimes we have people, now I'm not to say that this is a cure for everyone, I'm not just explaining why things happen, but I think we can safely say as follows. That if our home, if we're zochet to do chesed in our home 24/7, helping out all the time, then just like the animals maybe didn't want to come out of the teva, our children will never want to leave the derech, the path that we left for them. If they see the ne'imut, the pleasantness of the chesed that happens in a Jewish home, and the children see how the father helps, the mother helps, the children, everyone's always helping, then who would want to go anywhere else but rather to stay in the Jewish family where people are always willing to help and ready to help and wanting to help? Because you don't have that anywhere else in the world. You don't have it and you won't have it. This is how we make a teva, a protection against the whole world. The teva is a protection. The whole world is destroying his state. Is by making chesed 24/7 in the house. Easier said than done, but something that we have to work towards. Let's move on to our final lesson from this week's Parshat. There was a doctor, a British physician by the name of John Abernathy. He was a surgeon, world-renowned. He was a teacher, and he helped many people with emotional problems. He related the story of a patient who came to his clinic complaining of depression and melancholy, and he said he needs help. And he's an artist, and he's losing his abilities. He needs help. He's very depressed. So Dr. Abernathy said to him, listen, I can give you pills and I can give you prescriptions, but I'm going to tell you something that's even better. I'm going to tell you something what to do. It's better than any medicine. He said, please tell me. He says, in town right now, there's a comedian by the name of Grimaldi, if I'm pronouncing it right. And Grimaldi's here, and he is number one comedian. Go to him. Go to one of his performances. Laugh. The laughter is going to make you feel so much better. And this man said, now he's looking even sadder. And he says to him, it won't help me at all. And the doctor says, why not? He says, because I am Grimaldi. He's the comedian. And he's sad. He says, if I'm the guy, how can I fix myself up? I will tell you, we have a very, very weird situation happening in this week's Parshat. We're told that for 120 years, Noah is building a teva. And Rashi says, why Hashem made it 120 years? Because Hashem wanted to give a chance for the people to see what's going on and for them to make tshuva. Like the Ramban, the Ramban explains that really a boat's not going to save you from the Mabul, but rather it was something to do to make it look less than a miracle. But the whole point was for really people to see him to make tshuva. And not one single person made tshuva. Nobody. Now imagine you have a kiruv organization. And you hire somebody, and for 5 years, he's working in kiruv. And after 5 years, you're the boss, you walk up to this guy and say, okay, listen, we spent $150,000 on you for salary, for the office, for everything. How many people did you make? How many people you make to keep Shabbat or keep kosher? How many people? And you say to the boss, 0. See, after 5 years, $150,000, nobody? So you know what? We'll give you more money, we'll give you more time. Here's another $500,000, we'll give you 5 more years. They come back after 5 more years, and they ask him, no, anything? How many people? 20, 30, 50, 100? And the man says, 0. You think at that time they'll fire him? Probably. They spent over $650,000 on the guy, and got not one person to be keeping anything. Noah, 120 years building a teva. Not one person he was mekar. Not one person he made to do tshuva. How could it be? How could it be? There was once a small town, and they had a major drought. No rain. No rain came down. No water. And each shul was davening and davening, but no answer. No rain. Finally, all the Rabbanim came together and they said, you know what we're going to do? We have to daven all together. We need ahdut. We need everyone to work together. We're going to pray all together. And no shul is big enough to keep all the Jews together. So we're going to go to the fields. We're going to make a big asifa, big gathering. Everyone's going to come. We're going to pray all together. And they invited the greatest of the Rabbanim. They come to the day that when everything was scheduled. Everybody's sitting there, thousands of people. And one of the Rabbanim come, one of the Alter Rabbanim, one of the older Rabbanim come. He comes to the dais, he comes up to the table. He says, everyone's here? They say, yeah. He says, send everybody home. No rain is going to come. All we daven, nothing is going to come. So everyone says, well, look at him. Everyone says, hey, Rabbi, please, what do you mean? We gathered, we're here, everyone's ready. He says, nobody here has emunah that it's going to rain. Nobody believes it's going to rain. I say, Rabbi, how can you say that? Everybody came, they're not going to work, they're not doing anything. He says, look, not even one person brought an umbrella, not even one person brought a raincoat. You have garnished here, you have nothing here. Nobody believes that it's going to rain. In the Parshat it says, when did Noach go into the teva? What does it say? It says, like Yosef says, "Vayavo Noach v'navi Shlomo v'navi Torah lateva mipnei mehamabul." Because of the water of the Mabul, everyone went inside. Rashi says, "Mipnei mehamabul." Listen to Rashi says, "Af Noach, even Noach, mikatanei amanahaya." He had little faith, little emunah. Ma'amin, he believed. Ve'enu ma'amin, and he didn't believe at the same time. Sheyavo Mabul, but the Mabul would come. Now, why didn't he believe? Not because he didn't believe Hashem, that Hashem can't do it. It's possible that he thought Hashem was going to have a lot of rahmanut, going to be very merciful. Hashem's not going to really do it, for whatever good reasons. But he wasn't really believing. V'lo nichnas lateva, and he didn't walk into the teva. You understand, Rabotai? He didn't fully believe it. In order to sell emunah, in order to really get people to be mikar of them, if you don't really believe it, you're not going to have any success at all. It rained, but not that bad. And Noach wouldn't. Noach, like it says here, ma'amin ve'enu ma'amin. And once you become wishy-washy, believe, don't believe, you can be telling people for 120 years a Mabul is coming, and no one will believe you because you don't believe it yourself. In order for it to work, you have to believe it.
Maybe he didn't make anybody who says,
just for, but we're saying he built it for 120 years for a reason. Here he says, a friend writes as follows: a person must believe to his core that Torah is truth, if he is to help others see the benefits of Torah. Someone who himself has questions and doubts will never have an effect on other people. One cannot sell that which he does not own. If you ever go into a store and try to buy something, right? If the salesperson is not so confident talking, you yourself don't want to buy it. You don't feel the confidence there. Now, some people use that to manipulate the sale, right? Unfortunately. But this is the lesson. Someone who wants to be Mekarev, someone who wants to sell anything, must fully believe in his product. We have children growing up in our family. How do you teach them Torah and Mitzvot? How do you teach them to go in the right derech? We spoke about doing chesed in the house 24/7. We talked about all these different influences already. But here we come with another understanding, which is when they see how important Torah and Mitzvot is to you, they're going to do that exact same thing. If they see that the newspaper or the computer or the phone, and that's the most important, then that's what they're going to do. Little kids already, they come out with phones in their hands where they know how to use it. Why? Or how do they know? iPhone, smartphone, how do all these things? Because that's what they see their parents on. That's what they do because they think that's important. We have to fully commit in order to convince. And especially children, they're able to tell this from a mile away. If the father really or the mother really is just saying something or really believing it. And so, Rabotai, we're going to end with a review on the 3 lessons that we learned. Number 1, we learned about the importance of our neighbors, of the influence of those around us. And we learned how we can depollute or unpollute all the pollution that's here. Disinfect the pollution. We talked about in the second lesson how important chesed 24/7 and especially chesed at home. And in the third lesson we learned about that you cannot sell that which you don't own. And a person has to be ready to completely believe in order to influence other people. And with this, I want to wish everybody Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom.